Toby Keith passing away at the age of 62. That announcement coming down in the last couple of hours from family on his social media pages after a battle with stomach cancer. The official statement from the family on this Tuesday morning, it was posted at 2:20 a.m. Toby Keith passed peacefully last night on February 5th, surrounded by his family. He fought his fight with grace and courage. Please respect the privacy of his family at this time. That is the statement, the brief statement from the Toby Keith family after his passing at 62 years old from stomach cancer. He was diagnosed back in 2022. And obviously, you know, for many of you who are fans, broke out in the 90s during that country boom time and had a hell of a career. And what I always liked about him is, you know, he was all-American. He sang about Rah, Rah, America, but he didn't necessarily fit into a specific party framework or party ideology per se. It was just America. And while I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm the biggest Toby Keith fan, certainly there were songs of his, like Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, that I certainly enjoyed, and I know many of you did as well. So you know what we got to do? We got to get our guy Ray Stevens on this morning. That's what we got to do. Ray hosts the midday show here on KCMO at 10 o'clock, has a deep background in country music and country radio, and we'll try to get him on the air here. I know he's a busy guy, but we'll fit Ray in for a few minutes here on KCMO Talk Radio. Meantime, on the news front, Donald Trump was on KCMO yesterday talking to our good friend Dan Bongino. That was at 1:30. He was right here on KCMO giving his first public comments in the wake of this border deal that was negotiated in the Senate. And Donald Trump lit into it, as you would have expected him to do, because it was a bad bill, it was a dumb bill, and it was something that should have never been considered by, frankly, not just Republicans, but anybody with common sense. So Trump hops on this radio station, KCMO, 1:30 yesterday afternoon. He responds to this border bill, and within hours of that, this thing is dead.
Well, it shouldn't even be considered. I think it's dead in the House. I don't think anybody's going to go for it. It's terrible. It's also a way of shipping tens of billions of dollars out of our country into other countries, and we shouldn't be doing that. Everything should be separate. If we're going to do Ukraine and whatever country we may be talking about, they should all be separate. They're lopping it all into one bill. You don't need a border bill. We had the safest border in the history of our country. I didn't need a border bill. I went to Mexico. I got stay in Mexico. I call it remain in Mexico. I got things that nobody believed. I got 28,000 soldiers given free of charge by Mexico, by the Mexican government, to protect our border. And if they didn't do that, I would have done something like tariffs on cars, etc. But it's not that it was so easy to get. They weren't exactly thrilled about it. But we had the safest border in history. I didn't need a border bill. I said, close up the border, just like you would do, Dan. I said, close up the border, and they closed up the border. Border Patrol is fantastic. The people at ICE are fantastic. These people do a great job. When they hear something like that from somebody they respect, that's what they do. So we had a closed border. We let people in legally. They came in legally, but we had the best numbers. We had the best border in the history of our country, actually. So I didn't need a border bill. This bill is a disaster. This bill has 5,000 people a day potentially coming into our country. Does it make sense? I don't know. I thought it was a typo. I thought they made a typo.
I thought, even when he's trying to be serious, he's still, oh gosh, it just, that's Trump for you in a nutshell. That was 1:30 yesterday at the end of the Dan Bongino show here on KCMO Talk Radio. And I know many of you were tuned into that, but Trump was right when he pointed out right out of the gates, this thing appears to be dead in the House, but it should have never gotten to this point in the Senate. So then last night what happens is Mitch McConnell calls the whole thing off. Mitch McConnell basically tells Republicans, yeah, let's not bore. No, we're not going to go ahead with this. That was the message from Mitch McConnell that came down last night to Republicans. And a lot of people are looking at this and saying, oh, this is Trump controlling the party. No, this is Donald Trump having common sense. And frankly, there are many Republicans who were and would have been against this, regardless of Donald Trump and his thoughts. Trump did not drive this. Obviously, he may have put the final nail in the coffin, but he did not drive this. It's not Donald Trump saying, you do what I tell you to do because it's going to help me in the election. Who in their right minds thought this bill was a good idea if you actually care about the border? I mean, this is something that, has gotten a lot of attention over the last 24 hours when it comes to how the border basically closes when migrant encounters reach 5,000 people a day. And there's a lot of blowback and pushback. Kirsten Sinema, Democrat in Arizona, said this provision's getting woefully and perhaps purposefully misconstrued. She writes here, the border automatically closes when migrant encounters reach 5,000. This does not mean that 5,000 migrants are permitted to enter the country each day. Okay, well, I have this wild idea. Why not start at 0? If you're crossing a border into a country illegally, you should be expelled immediately. This is not difficult. We are basically allowing and opening up the door through this border bill that thankfully is now dead to let people break the law. That's what we were doing had this thing had passed. And it would have given Joe Biden a great out. To say, see, I told you I needed Congress to do something. I told you I couldn't do this on my own. Now Congress is finally doing something so we can take care of the border. That's BS. That's BS, and even the old man sitting in the White House knows it. He decided to roll back every single one of Donald Trump's policies, the most important being remain in Mexico, which basically said if you want to come here and claim asylum, you're an asylum seeker, great, you'll wait in Mexico until your court date. Oh, crap, I got to wait in Mexico for 6, 12 months? Maybe my situation isn't all that bad down here.
Not getting any free stuff there.
No, yeah. Suddenly all the welfare programs you might have been coming here for go out the window. You're not getting that in Mexico. So maybe my situation isn't all that bad. Now, if you want to come from any of these countries into America and apply to be an immigrant to America, we'd love to have you. I'm a second-generation American. I know many of you might be first. I mean, this is what makes America, America, baby. We're all products of immigrants in some way, shape, and form. And I want all of us to come here and live the American dream. But what we're doing is not working. And that has been beyond evident. It is a broken system, and Joe Biden has taken this broken system and put it on steroids over the last 3 years. And some of the things that were in this bill, listen, James Langford down in Oklahoma, I talked to a couple buddies in Oklahoma. They're like, yeah, he's catching a lot of heat, as he should, because that's not the Oklahoma I know. As someone who lived there for a couple of years, he's going to find himself in some hot water for quite some time. So the bill is dead. Hallelujah. We're not going to dish out $60 billion to Ukraine while giving $20 billion to our border. And we're not going to go ahead with some of the nonsense and BS that was ultimately in this bill. So you know what? If Joe wants to fix the border, he could fix it yesterday, but he doesn't want to. And this whole thing of blaming Republicans is only going to get him so far. In fact, I think it's going to fail miserably for him. 913-408-7957. We'll get to more with you as we roll through the 6 o'clock hour on KCMO. And I don't know about you, but how big of a turnoff is it to see members of Congress argue on social media like a bunch of teenage, schoolgirls? I'm so sick of seeing it, and you just can't avoid it at this point. We'll tell you about that and more coming up on 95.7 FM, KCMO. I know you K-Staters are fired up this morning as well. Got that overtime win over the Jayhawks yesterday, 75-70. That was a heck of a win. I was watching the game, and then KU went up like 10 points early in the second half, and I flipped it off and said I'm going to bed. KU's going to do its thing, pull away. And then I wake up today, and I'm like, wait, what? What happened?
Yeah, they started the second half on an 11-0 run, and then K-State went on an 11-0 run, and then it was just back and forth the rest of the way.
And Tyler Perry scored 8 of his 26 in OT. So heck of a performance for Kansas State. I wondered if KU was going to come out a little flat after that huge emotional victory in Lawrence on Saturday against Houston in that top 10 matchup. And they were for a little bit, but then they start the second half, and I'm like, okay, all right, back to business. They woke up. Bill Self kicked them in the rear end at halftime, and they're back to normal. And then, no, K-State woke up to that news this morning, so congratulations. If you're a K-State fan and you're someone who hated the border bill, man, you are on fire this morning. You are on cloud nine. Woo! So you're living the high life right now, if that's you.
Well, throw in being a Royals fan, too.
Yes,
right?
yes. Mm-hmm. Bobby Witt, as you heard John mention, top of the hour news, landing a near $300 million deal. My goodness. $289 million. 11-year extension. Good for Bobby Witt Jr. I'm happy for him and happy for Kansas City as well. We'll get to more of that coming up throughout the morning on KCMO Talk Radio. So I don't know about you, but man, some of these people in Congress really are exhausting. They don't do a damn thing for you and I. They simply want to become social media sensations and celebrities. It used to be people who had a media background went into politics. We saw that with Reagan, and we saw that, many times over the years at different levels of government. Well, now people get into government because that's their pathway to fame and potentially fortune after they're out of Congress, or heck, even in Congress, insider trading and whatnot. But this back and forth got millions of views on social media yesterday, and I just want to give it as a quintessential example of how much many of us just hate politicians who are always seeking fame and fortune, but literally can't do their job. There was this video that was put up of a representative out of Massachusetts. His name is Jim McGovern. And he was complaining on the House floor about Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's out of Massachusetts. And the video was put up by one of these left-wing accounts. And Marjorie Taylor Greene responds to this video of Jim McGovern out of Massachusetts. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene is out of Georgia. And she writes about this video that was put out, Jim McGovern blasting her. She writes here, "This is coming from the same guy who was well known to lay his suit jacket on the actual bathroom floor while spending a lot of time in the stall of the first floor bathroom of the Capitol." So Marjorie Taylor Greene is throwing out a rumor that this congressman from Massachusetts spends much of his day in the stall, in the bathroom of the first floor Capitol. On the first floor of the Capitol. So things I really didn't need to know on my Monday was Marjorie Taylor Greene insisting that Jim McGovern out of Massachusetts just likes to, poop a lot on the first floor of the Capitol. I mean, she used the poop emoji in her tweet. That tells you all you need to know about who these people are. And then Jim McGovern responds out of Massachusetts and writes here, "No idea what you're talking about. What are you doing in the men's bathroom? Aren't you late for a Klan meeting?" And it's just like, between the two of you, can you both shut up and show up at work and stop sitting around with your staffs trying to figure out how to have a cute, clever Twitter war with someone from the opposing party? Like, this country's going to hell in a handbasket real fast on multiple levels when it comes to our fiscal insanity, $34 trillion in debt. Social Security's 10 years from going off the cliff, if not there already. You have a border that is wide open that, some people are trying to do something about, but the rest of you are too busy making fools of yourselves on social media. And on top of that, trying to get your latest hits on MSNBC and Fox News. If you want to be on TV, just go on TV. That's fine. Go try to get yourself regular TV hits, but get out of Congress and let the adults try to do the job that needs to be done. And stop tweeting at each other with poop emojis and, Klan references and whatever else they're doing in their spare time, John.
I know you are, but what am I?
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with. That is the third grade. I mean, I remember
He's looking at me. I don't know if your kids are verbalizing that stuff yet there, but that's probably coming, Pete.
Oh, no.
Yeah, stop looking at me.
Yes.
You're in that?
We are in that phase.
Okay.
I said it to Claire last night after they got their baths and Mom was blow drying their hair. And I looked at Claire while her hair was getting blow dried, and I said, "Oh, your hair looks beautiful." And she goes, "Stop looking at me." And I'm like, and even Chloe's now picking up on it. "Stop looking at," she kind of mumbles it and fumbles it.
Okay.
"Stop looking at me." So yes, we are there, John. That is a very good example. But that's what we're living through right now with these complete and utter clowns in Washington, D.C. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like a good poop joke, or I liked a good poop joke when I was like 10. Now we've got members of Congress using poop emojis and making poop jokes about each other. And then the other one's like, "Yeah, well, you're in the Klan." This is what we have. These are the people that we have
Such a cute soundbite.
elected to be in charge in this country. And it really is sad, and it's pathetic. And the sooner it ends, the better off we're all going to be. I don't know when that happens or why, but man, I mean, Mark, your girls are 11 and 8. Do they still like poop jokes, or are they even over it a little bit?
Oh, yeah, they still love poop
Okay.
jokes.
They do like a good poop joke.
Oh, yeah.
And Dad likes to deliver a good poop joke.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I can take that with 11 and 8-year-olds, not with grown members in Congress.
Oh, yeah, especially with a new baby. They love the toot jokes.
Oh, do they? Oh, well, those new babies, they're pooping all day, every day.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be back in the saddle in no time, man. Oh.
Yeah, it's going well over there at home right now.
I'm sure. Trust me. You come here and you get a call from some of the folks that we hear from on the show, and that's nothing compared to getting pooped on when you get back home. That is nothing. I'll be doing that in a few weeks, by the way. Got number 3 coming up here. March 9th is the due date.
You'll be ready to go. You'll be ready.
I'm ready. By the way, we are doing a pretty cool giveaway here on KCMO Talk Radio. If you guess the day and time of when our third child is born, you can win yourself a weekend getaway at the Elms up in Excelsior Springs. So I'm going to give you some details on that coming up. How's that sound?
After a weekend up there, we might be guessing another.
Yeah, no, not for me. I ain't going.
Not you, obviously.
I'll get you the details on that. Also, the ratings from the Grammys next. I did get confirmation that Mark Alford will not be using any poop emojis on his social media accounts. He sent me a text during the break. So just want to make sure, as we talk about members of Congress and how embarrassing some of them are using poop emojis to fight with each other on social media, Mark Alford is not one of them.
Maybe Ray can ask him about that at 10:05.
Very good. Mark's going to be on with Ray Stevens, 10 o'clock this morning. And Ray's going to be on with us in about 15 minutes, talk about the passing of Toby Keith. Ray spent a large chunk of his radio career in country music. So looking forward to that in about 15 minutes. And listen, I think we've got a good batch around here when you talk about members of Congress. Like, not that they're all perfect. None of them are. There's only been one perfect human being, right? So none of them are perfect. But when you talk about individuals like Mark Alford and Sam Graves and Jake LaTurner, you've got good people. And even, people that may not see the world the way you and I do. Emmanuel Cleaver, Sharice Davids. While I probably disagree with 90+% of their votes, and I'm just ballparking here, it might be 95, I will say this much. They're not the people who are begging for hits on Morning Joe by trying to be as insane as they possibly can be. And at least I can give them that much. So all in all, we're in pretty good shape here when it comes to members of Congress in the Kansas City Metro. All in all, not perfect, but, pretty good shape. So I've got kids, speaking of poop emojis and poop jokes, I've got kid number 3 coming up in March. And we're doing a special giveaway at KCMOTalkRadio.com where you guess the date and the time of when this child is going to be born. The due date is March 9th, so I'm telling you the due date. So pick some day and some time around the due date, put in a date and a time, and the listener who guesses the closest to the due date of this baby is going to get an overnight stay at the Elms up in Excelsior Springs, and we'll also get 2 facials or massages at the spa as part of this giveaway. So you get to take your significant other up for it. You might end up having a kid on the way after an overnight stay at the Elms. Not me. I'm not going. This is for you. All right? And you're going to have yourself a great night, a great time, and you got to go to the website, KCMOTalkRadio.com, and click on the baby bullseye. It's right after Politics in a Pint. You can't miss it there on the homepage. The baby bullseye, put in your email, your name, guess the day and time of the baby coming. Due date's March 9th. And whoever's closest is going to get that giveaway and that stay at the Elms. So that's pretty good. It's going to be fun, whoever gets it. And we're going to be jealous as we're cleaning up poop diapers and you're up at the Elms. There you go. And remember, it is a leap year, so it could be a leap year, baby. I'm less concerned. But over the last couple of weeks, Kate's been freaking out that we could have a leap year baby. I'm like, trust me, if the kid gets screwed up, it's not going to be because she was born on a leap year. It's going to be because we screwed her up. That's going to be why. That's how it always goes. So I'm not worried about it, but I know there's a lot of concern now in the house that this baby could come on February 29th because then it's like, they only have a real birthday every 4 years. What do you do? When do you celebrate the birthday? Well, you got to celebrate it March 1st. That's what you have to do. I know it's a different month, but that's how it's got to go. So go to the website, take a guess, and win that overnight stay at the Elms. There you go. Meantime, when you're looking at news going on in News of the Day, the Grammy ratings. I said yesterday I thought the Grammy ratings were going to do very well. I watched the majority of it. It was not political. You know, there was one dope that yelled about a ceasefire, but who cares? There's always one of them. Every family's got one. Every award show has one, but it was not overtly political. On top of that, you had the Taylor mojo, the Taylor bump. She had herself a great night. You had a lot of stars who had not been there in a while show up. And I predicted yesterday that it was going to have a very good night, and it did. Here are the numbers. And I've also got the numbers for Kansas City, so hang on for this. Nearly 17 million people tuned into the Grammys on Sunday on CBS. That is up 34% from just last year, 12.4 million to 17 million. So, and this is the largest number they've had since 2020, and the 2020 Grammys were pre-COVID. So that's a very impressive number, and they desperately needed that. And now, specific to Kansas City, look at this. All right? It's going to drive some of you nuts, but it is what it is. The top television market from the Grammys on Sunday night was Kansas City, a 13.6 share. That means 13.6% of the households in Kansas City were tuned in to the Grammys. That is up 86% from last year. So nearly twice as many of us in Kansas City watched the Grammys this year as compared to last year. The highest TV market for the Grammys was right here in Kansas City. So yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about the Grammys and, you know, some of the viral moments and what happened and, you know, put a cultural and political spin on things. And some of you complained. And I said yesterday, I feel pretty confident in saying that Kansas City was locked in on this award show for one reason or another. And trust me, talk about the border. We did a lot of the border bill. I would say yesterday the two biggest things we talked about was the border bill and the Grammys. And some of you wanted 4 hours of border. I can't do 4 hours of border. I'm going to blow my own brains out doing 4 hours of border wall talk here. I can only do so much. But I knew the Grammys was going to be big in this town. And the ratings came out around lunchtime, and it showed Kansas City was the top TV market. And listen, once in a while I get something right. I've gotten plenty wrong. Trust me, I'm the guy that's done a naked lap around this damn building. I've been so wrong about things around here. So I'll take my lumps when I'm wrong, but once in a while, I do get something right. And I was pretty confident that the Grammys were going to be big here in Kansas City, and they were. We gave our love back to Taylor after she's given us a nice economic boost and a nice worldwide boost as well over the last few months. So we were just returning the favor for Kansas City's adopted daughter, Taylor Swift. That's all we did here on KCMO Talk Radio. 913-408-7957. That's the studio line. And, of course, the text line here on KCMO Talk Radio. Pete, I'm usually asleep when Ray comes on. I work the overnights. But I'm curious to hear what he has to say about the passing of Toby Keith. Well, guess what? He's going to be here coming up in just a few minutes. We can't wait to get on Ray Stevens. He hosts our midday show from 10 to noon. He's been doing a great job for the last few months. And he's a guy who spent a lot of his career in country music radio. So he knows Toby Keith well. He's got some stories as well that he is going to share with us here. And listen, I like a lot of Toby Keith's hits, but never met the guy, never dealt with the guy. The one thing I will say and what I appreciate about him is that he seemed to love America over any political party or ideology. And that came out in a lot of his songs. And we'll talk to Ray Stevens about that and much more as we roll through the 6 o'clock hour right here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. That was a great spot with Ray Stevens right before the top of the hour on the passing of Toby Keith early or late last night at 62 years old. And I forgot that Toby Keith and I technically have the same degree. Toby went to Villanova from 79 to 80, but then he got his honorary degree years later. The plan was for him to become a petroleum engineer. Didn't obviously make it all 4 years, but I forgot. I remember that little tidbit about Toby Keith, but I forgot about it. So rest in peace, Toby. Ray was great this morning, and he's going to have many more of his thoughts as a guy who knew Toby and did country music for a long time up in Chicago on the radio up there. He's going to be on at 10 o'clock, as he is every day, 10 to noon on KCMO Talk Radio. Good morning. It's good to be here on a Tuesday. And 1 hour from now, we've got Patrick Mahomes' high school coach, Adam Cook, who's going to be on the show. Now, the Royals signed Bobby Witt Jr. yesterday to a $289 million deal over 11 years. Mark was doing cartwheels yesterday. I mean, I've never seen the guy so happy. I didn't see him when he had his third child a few weeks ago, but I think he was probably happier yesterday.
Oh, man, I followed the Royals since 91. I know some people will follow longer than that, but I've never thought they would have signed a guy to this kind of a deal.
Well, they got him. 11 years, $289 million to keep Bobby Witt Jr. here for basically the bulk of his career. Had a great year last year, 49 stolen bases with 30 homers, 96 RBI, batted .276, played 158 games, 11 triples, led the American League. But what if this is really not about baseball, and this is actually about politics? What if this is really the Royals saying to you, the voter in Jackson County, hey, you guys say we're not going to spend money? You guys say that we're not going to spend money on the players, and you're not going to spend money on us until we spend the money on the players? Well, how about this? We just dumped a truckload of money, nearly $300 million, on our biggest star, who's 23 years old, entering his third season, and he's here for effectively his entire career. We will spend money. We're going to spend money. And now we want you to spend money on our new baseball stadium. What say you, as the great Bill O'Reilly would say on his show?
They certainly have overcome the major objections. They've spent quite a bit in the offseason. We'll see how that works out, but this is certainly the keystone.
Yeah, and I saw that this is like $200 million more than they've ever spent on any kind of a deal for any single player. So they have put an enormous amount of money down on Bobby Witt Jr. Is that enough for you, the Jackson County taxpayer, to say, yeah, you know what? We've been asking you guys for years to spend some dough. You guys finally do it. You lock up a franchise figure who's only 23. So, yeah, you know what? I will absolutely go into the ballot box in April, and I will vote yes on extending the 3/8 cent sales tax in Jackson County and give you your money to go downtown. Or do you say, you know what, screw it, because I've seen some of this on the text line at 913-408-7957. Pete, I can't get my head around a baseball player getting $300 million, yet his company wants taxpayer funds. I say no. Those sports teams can pay for their own bleep, just like the rest of us do. That's one takeaway on the text line. So there's two ways this can go. Does the Bobby Witt Jr. deal make you say to yourself, I am more likely to vote for this sales tax extension? Or do you fall on the side of that texter who says, no. You got $300 million a player? I don't need to be subsidizing you with a 3/8 cent sales tax. Now, one of the big criticisms, as we noted was the fact that this team has not spent a ton of money on free agency. They have nickel and dime things for far too long. But this was impressive. I didn't think I'd see this yesterday. And by the way, credit to Bobby Witt Jr., who, yeah, I get it. He locked up enough money for his great-great-great-great-great-grandkids, if he plays his cards right, at 23 years old, who obviously don't exist. He's single.
Which is a good thing because Congress is spending that.
Yeah, that's right. But he could have held out. He could have had a couple of more years like he had last year. And he probably could have added, with the way baseball salaries are going, another $100 to $200 million to that deal if he wanted to wait out till free agency. But I think Bobby Witt came to a very smart and obvious conclusion. Kansas City is a great town. You can win here with the right players. This town will love you and support you. You will be a legend. And heck, if you can lock up at 23, $300 million, guess what? Do you want to risk it at 26 or 27 and try to get $400 million? Or do you say, 300 will do? I'll be all right. I'll make it all work. And by the way, do you want to wait for the $400 million and then have to go to New York or California and pay those ridiculous taxes? Because remember what Shohei Ohtani did, this rock star guy who went to the Dodgers, he signed a $700 million deal. But he's only taking $2 million a year over 10 years, and he's deferring all the money so he doesn't have to pay California taxes. It's brilliant. If you haven't seen the background of this deal with this Japanese superstar who pitches and hits for power, he basically is taking $2 million a year over 10 years, so $20 million. And the other $670 million is going to be paid to him by the team after he's done playing and leaves California, so he avoids paying $300 million-ish in taxes. It is brilliant. And kudos to him for thinking ahead and his agents for thinking ahead. So Bobby Witt, probably part of him said, well, I can go to a big market, but I got to wait a couple of years at least. I've got to pay their taxes, and I got to be in a place that I don't know if I really like all that much. And he clearly also has a relationship with Patrick Mahomes that clearly is worth something as well.
Yeah, the Patrick Mahomes factor comes in a little bit here. You see a star right here in Kansas City across the parking lot, and he's a part owner of the Royals too. So
Yeah, that's right. That's right, he is. So some of you on the text line, there's more no's. Pete, taxes are too damn high. I'm voting no. Pete makes me want to vote no even more. Okay, but here's the thing. My gut is that those of you that are saying that were no votes already. And that's fine. I'm just sitting here as a fellow taxpayer asking you if this makes you more likely or less likely. But for those who were on the fence, for those who have said, hey, the Royals don't spend money on the baseball team, spend some money on the baseball team, and then we can talk about potentially building you guys a ballpark. The Royals have played their cards very well here. And what John Sherman has said, the owner of the team, is that he will basically have an announcement sometime in the next, it sounds like, few days on where they want to build their ballpark, either in the East Village spot or in the old Kansas City Star building. Those are the two finalists, and I think he timed this thing out to basically get the Bobby Witt Jr. deal done and then look like a hero and then roll out the stadium plans, which is smart, by the way. And then if the Chiefs cap this week off with a Super Bowl, man, this thing's passing. Because remember, the monies are for both teams. And you're telling me this town, Jackson County in particular, is going to say no to extending a tax, not a new tax, extending a tax in the wake of a second straight Super Bowl? Even if they lose, I don't see any way that happens. But the Royals doing what they did, I think only helped the cause here. 913-408-7957. That's the text line and the studio line on KCMO as we roll through the 7 o'clock hour. We'll hear from you and also get to our buddy Dave Traubert, bottom of the hour, Kansas Policy Institute, while Patrick Mahomes' high school coach, Adam Cook, joins us just after 8 on 95.7 FM KCMO. Well, it's earnings season on Wall Street. We've got CNBC on here in the studios, and they're talking about Boeing battling strong headwinds. Yeah, when doors of your planes are flying off at 15,000 feet, you got some problems. I would say that is some strong headwinds, no pun intended. But yesterday, you saw one of America's favorite joints, McDonald's. Their shares tumbled 4%, still at $286 a share by the close yesterday. And why is that? Well, they saw their same-store sales in the latest quarter grow just 3.4%, falling short of the 4.7% growth that Wall Street expected. Now, why is that? We've told you over the last year about how there are now $18 combo meals for a Big Mac at certain McDonald's around the country. And the idea of, hey, I'm going to go grab a burger. It's going to cost me, a couple bucks. Going to get out, get an easy meal. Well, that's not the case anymore. Price of goods have gone up. Price of labor has gone up. And cost of doing business has gone up across the board. And now, McDonald's going viral over the last year for all the wrong reasons, including $18 Big Mac combo meals in places like Connecticut. On top of the fact that I finally tried a fillet of fish and it was just absolutely disgusting, and John Anthony can't convince me otherwise, no matter how much he tries to.
No,
now,
this is more for me. So, no, you've had your chance, brother.
John's still convincing me it's about how the cheese is melted on the fillet of fish. He still says I didn't get the right one because the cheese wasn't properly melted.
Well, that cements the bun to the fillet itself.
That's what it
right?
is. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to peel that apart when you want to redistribute the tartar sauce blob. So, there's an art to it all.
Yeah. And then Mark tells me, Mark's also a McDonald's aficionado. So these two guys, I don't know what it says, but we got two McDonald's experts here in the house. And Mark informed me during the break that he's only been to McDonald's twice since the baby was born back in December. Is that right?
That's right. And it's going to be tough this next month because the Shamrock Shake came back yesterday. So I'm a little nervous about that. Once we drive by McDonald's, I'll be tempted.
You're going to be tempted?
Try to hold back.
Well, here's the good news. McDonald's knows it's got a price problem right now. They got a lot of flack for some of these prices that they were charging at various locations. I mean, last week, McDonald's went viral again because a customer was charged $7.29 for an Egg McMuffin and $5.69 for a side of hash browns. I mean, do the math on that. After tax, Egg McMuffin and hash browns running you almost $15. That's ridiculous.
Get a couple dozen eggs, a pound of bacon for sure.
I mean, you cook yourself breakfast for a week with that. So they realize they have an issue. So what are they going to do? Well, their president says one thing they're focused on is trying to maybe not decrease their menu prices because, once again, when inflation hits, you rarely go in the opposite direction. You just try to limit the increases from here on out. So they're going to try to limit the increases on the menu when it comes to cost of about 2% if they can. 2 to 3%. Last year was about a 10% hike. And on top of that, what did their president say? He said that they are going to focus on affordability that will likely take form of targeted deals offered on the mobile app, which Mark has been telling you about on this show for a long time. You get on the mobile app and you get some deals. So you heard it here first on KCMO months ago.
Oh, yeah. You've got deals all over the place on that app. So definitely check it out. If
Deals all over the place. What does that mean? You got to go into certain sections of the app to try to find a deal on, an Egg McMuffin on a certain day of the week?
They have a tab that says deals. So you just click on deals, and then, it just pops up, and you see which ones you can get for the day.
Okay. Well, Mark did say he's only been a couple of times since the kid was born. But you said that McDonald's on 75th Street across from Shawnee Mission is your go-to.
Yeah, I did notice that after the baby was born, they have a new, or maybe it was after the new year, they have a new 30% off. If you use the mobile app, you have to buy it in the app, though, which I didn't ever do
But
before.
what are they getting out of you having the app?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. I mean, are they spamming you with stuff all day?
They might have some ads. I don't notice it, but.
Oh. All I know is this. The other issue for McDonald's, and they noted this as well, is the cost of labor. They said California's $20 an hour minimum wage for fast food workers goes into effect in April. You're going to be paying people in California $20 to flip a damn burger and put fries, heat up some fries. 20 an hour. And here's the thing. The guys like Bernie Sanders, 15 an hour, Pete. I mean, these guys, they don't understand economics. I walk into my McDonald's once in a while. We went a few weeks ago. We brought the girls there for some ice cream after something it was after the Christmas thing Claire had at her preschool. And there's one person in there. I go in, I go on a little machine there, a little tablet, type in what I want, and then someone shows up with the food. That's it. There's one person. These people, whether it's California Governor Gavin Newsom or Bernie Sanders or any of them, they are destroying jobs. They are not like creating jobs. They're not like, hey, we got you $20 an hour. Okay, well, if there's only 2 employees in a McDonald's instead of half a dozen, that's 4 people out of work. Because the real minimum wage is always going to be 0, John, and that ain't changing.
The kiosks in Paris worked very nicely.
Yeah.
We had there were 8 kiosks when we walked in, right? So you just punch up. The menu's huge, so if you don't have your glasses, there's no way you can mess it up. I mean, right? So you're just poking at pictures. It didn't matter that I didn't habla in Paris. And so basically then once you punched your order in, the people up front were just, guys were cooking it and turning it out. And somebody was bagging it, and they were just throwing it out. You didn't mess with that whole thing at the counter where the person didn't know where the prices were on the register. And
it was a medium fry, not a large, damn it.
Right. So it went a lot quicker.
All right. Well, still, people are going to be out of work because of it.
Yeah.
And California thinks they're doing people a favor, charging them, doing $20 an hour minimum wage. Great. And when the Big Mac combo costs you $18, who's really saving any money on this nonsense? It's ridiculous. And something I never think about is bringing my glasses into McDonald's so I can see the kiosk screen and make sure I'm reading it properly. Oh, man. It is good to be here on a Tuesday. The sad passing of Toby Keith last night at 62 years old. We'll have much more on that throughout the morning on KCMO. Tirade Tuesday is also right around the corner at 8:30. It's your chance. Whatever you want to rip on and blast, 8:35. That's your opportunity here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. All righty there, John. Who is the winner of the Big Game program?
Toddy in Grandview picks up the big program for the big game. That's nice, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I got one yesterday. John was running around the office looking for his.
I'm a couple inches taller when I stand on it.
It's very nice.
It is very cool.
Well, congratulations, Todd in Grandview. Next chance to win at 11:15. Ray Stevens will have one on KCMO. Mark, you got yours yet there, big boy?
I don't. I'll look for one after the show, though.
Okay. Mark will be running around the studios looking for his Big Game program.
It's crazy that we've had a few of those the last few years.
I know. It's pretty good stuff. Good times in Kansas City. Bobby Witt Jr. signs his $300 million deal, and we are off to the races. But some want to make Kansas City all about true crime, including now Nancy Grace is in on the mix. I didn't know she was still doing this. I had no idea that Nancy Grace was still doing her thing, but here we are. I guess she's got a show that airs now on Crime Online, and Nancy Grace, in a bid to become relevant again, is jumping on the bandwagon with this story here in Kansas City, where these 3 guys in the Northland die on the back porch of their buddy's house after the final Chiefs game of the regular season against the Chargers. And Nancy Grace, once again, screaming, "Look at me, look at me, look at me," has taken this whole thing one step further when she said this on her show last night.
With 3 dead bodies just outside your window, how do you miss that? Of course, I'm talking about the 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans found dead on the back porch and in the yard of friend Jordan Willis. But this morning, a sobering thought. Did the so-called friend, the homeowner, Jordan Willis, immediately pack up, move out, lawyer up, and check into rehab as part of an elaborate legal strategy to gain public sympathy and avoid potential jail time?
Oh, wow. I forgot how annoying she was. Oh, my goodness. That was Nancy Grace, who still is on the internet somewhere doing shows. Someone's paying her to do stuff like that, I guess.
For some reason, I thought she was a fictional character, but she's real.
That way, you thought she was a fictional character.
Drew.
Oh, Oh gosh! All right. Well, there you go. That's Mark's take of the morning. He thought Nancy Grace was fake, but we'll allow it. Mark, you can still work here. So now we're at the point where, because people want to create this elaborate cover-up because it generates clicks. Yesterday was the New York Post putting out a headline that this, I don't want to call him the homeowner because he wasn't a homeowner, but the guy who was the main tenant of this home where his three buddies ended up dead on the back porch. He was now a modern-day, real-life Walter White from Breaking Bad. Today we have Nancy Grace suggesting that this individual has now lawyered up and checked himself into rehab to protect himself from potential jail time. But all we know is that the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department has at no point looked into this as anything other than what it very obviously appears to be: an accident. Toxicology reports came out, and of course there was fentanyl in the system of these three individuals. We've known that now since late last week when Fox 4 had the toxicology report and News Nation nationally had the toxicology report, and that's what we've got. But big mouths like Nancy Grace and the New York Post and these national outlets, they continue to try to string this thing along into something that we have no evidence to suggest that it is. And that is some elaborate scheme or something more than just a bunch of guys who clearly didn't realize what they were taking or thought they were taking something and it had fentanyl in it. What if instead of national media, maybe this is a What If Wednesday for tomorrow, what if the national media used this tragedy of three seemingly healthy men in their 30s dying in their buddy's back porch in lawn chairs after hanging out watching a Chiefs game? What if we use this to talk about, hey, what's actually going on here and what's killing Americans every day is the fentanyl crisis, and it's not like the crack epidemic or anything like that from a generation plus ago. It's not. It's people who literally don't know what they're taking. They think they're taking something that, is wrong, but might make them feel good for a couple of hours, if that. And they end up dropping dead on the back porch of their buddy's house because there are things in these drugs now that will kill them. And there's no way, well, there is a way, but, most people are not going to go out of their way to check what they're taking first to make sure it's not laced with something that ultimately will drive them 6 feet under. What if we used it as a national rallying cry around doing things like, protecting our border from fentanyl, having fentanyl awareness become more prevalent in our schools, in the workplace, all these different places where it should be an easy thing to discuss. Instead, it's like, let's go to Nancy Grace. All right, Nancy, take it away. He's covering it up. It's just ridiculous. All right, my tirade Tuesday. I'm done. Yesterday at 1:30 on this radio station, Donald Trump made an appearance with Dan Bongino. It was his first public comments since the awful border bill was announced on Sunday in the U.S. Senate. And by the way, that thing's dead. Mitch McConnell said last night that Republicans aren't going to vote for it. So it was already dead. The House was going nowhere with it. A ton of Republican senators had come out against it, including Hawley Schmidt and Roger Marshall. I don't think Jerry Moran ever put anything out on it. I don't know where Jerry was. Jerry! I don't know. I don't know where Jerry was on that whole deal. But anyway, doesn't matter. It's done. It's not happening. But Trump yesterday goes on Dan Bongino's show. And if you missed it, well, that's why you got to be listening. Ray Stevens at 10, Dan Bongino at noon. Trump stated the obvious on these awful border policies under this administration hurt many of the folks in the working class, middle class, and at the lowest end of the income scales the most. It's not people in Wokewood. It's not people with their signs on their front lawns, no humans illegal in Prairie Village. It's not them. It's not anchors at Woke 41. It's regular folks.
But if you think about African American, They are hurt the most in our country by what's going on at the border. No group more. Hispanic would be second. They are, because they're taking their jobs. They're taking jobs that are held by African Americans, and they're now taking the jobs for much less money. You know who else is hurt badly? The unions. I would love to have the Teamsters endorsement. I think Sean O'Brien's a very good guy. We had some.
How did that meeting go, Mr. President, with the Teamsters? How did that meeting? Sorry to interrupt you. How did that meeting go?
Well, most people would say don't waste your time because you're not going to get it because they always go. The leadership goes. I think I have 82% of Teamsters. I think they vote for me, but the leadership. But I think Sean's a good man, and I mentioned something at the meeting, and they probably had 50 leaders in the meeting. It was quite something. I said, when people come across the border illegally, you have union jobs. They're good-paying jobs. They're good salaries, very high salaries in some cases. You're not going to have them any longer with millions of people flowing into our country because they're going to take over driving trucks. They're going to take over doing the kind of work that you represent and that other unions represent. And I'll tell you, the unions are in trouble more than any other group. The unions are in trouble.
That was Donald Trump on Dan Bongino yesterday right here on 95.7 FM at 1:30. And he's right. That's why you have this. It's one of the strangest things going on right now that probably should get more attention. The way that union leadership is completely out of step with its members. Not every union, but still some of the biggest unions. Teamsters, UAW. I mean, that guy Sean Fain, that huckster who, did that negotiation with the big three in the fall. He's come out and, he's backing Joe, but he readily admitted last week or 2 weeks ago that most of his union members are not actually going to do what he's recommending they do. But think about how long, for decades, that union voter, which is, yes, a shrinking population, but that union voter would do what leadership told them to do, and they would vote for the Democratic Party. But that's changing rapidly because you're seeing politics change rapidly. You're seeing Republicans wisely, and really they're not necessarily doing anything right, but what they're doing wisely is they're actually getting more middle-class, working-class voters onto their side. Mostly because people are seeing the policies of, the party that they voted for decades, and they're realizing it ain't working. Whether it's on immigration, whether it's on monetary policy, making the dollar less valuable by the day by just printing money left and right, and the wealth gap is growing, and the folks in the middle are getting squeezed. If you are wealthy and you've got money in the investments, ETFs, mutual funds, 401ks, it's been a great run. I have people all the time, how are you liking the 401k? It's okay. It's up. I'm not upset about that. But you're growing the wealth gap. People with investments are able to stay ahead of inflation. Those who are on welfare programs, as this leadership wants to continue to expand those on the government dole, they're doing fine as well. Those who actually want to work, who want to get ahead, who are trying to lift themselves up by their bootstraps, raise a family, be middle class, they're the ones getting smoked right now. So it's not even really that Republicans are doing anything well or doing anything right. They're just not them, and people are kind of waking up to this whole thing, this print money, flood the border, grow the welfare state is not sustainable and does not work for people who want to live a more traditional life. And I'm glad that people are waking up to it. The question is, as it always is with Donnie Boy, can he stay on message? Can he keep that singular message? Were you better off 4 years ago than you are now? Can he keep that message going and not go down any other nonsensical road? I hope. I'd like to think so. But I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, you just wait. He's turned the corner, baby. Because just when you think that, you unfortunately end up getting somewhat disappointed. So we'll be following, we'll be watching, but it was a great interview. That's why you got to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. Ray Stevens announced it during his show that Don was going to be on with Dan at 1:30. So you never know what's going to be coming here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Meantime, we're going to talk to Mike Lombardi coming up, a guy who started his career with the 49ers. He's now a big talking head in the NFL, and he's got some thoughts on where this whole thing is going on Sunday with the Super Bowl. And if you didn't hear it, by the way, yesterday was Media Day, where all the guys were talking to folks in the media, all the players, all the coaches. And Patrick Mahomes was asked about his six-pack, or lack thereof, from the dad bod photo. Did you see that?
I have a six-pack. It's just under the dad bod. So it's just, if you feel, I mean, there might be some skin there, but then underneath that, the six-pack's there. You just got to get real close, and you got to squint a little bit, and I think you'll see it.
I think he stole that line from Mark, by the way. I've heard Mark on the phone with his wife using that.
I have used that many times.
I got a six-pack. It's just under all the skin and the flab and the Big Mac I had for lunch. So Patrick Mahomes trying to help dads out everywhere. There you go.